You're tuned in to the English Up Podcast.
Brought to you by the Speak English with Us.
Quick question at 4 p.m. Does your day feel tidy, or does it start slipping out of your hands?
If it feels tidy at 4 p.m., I need to know your secret, because mine usually looks like a desk explosion.
That's the problem, isn't it? You're not lazy. You're just trying to wrap up one thing while 3 new things jump in.
Exactly, and by then, your brain's already half packed up, but your inbox is still acting like it owns you.
This is a B1 level episode perfect for intermediate learners. Beginners, you're welcome too.
And if you're listening while pretending to finish work, we see you. Maybe with one eye on your laptop and one eye on the clock.
Here's the real issue. Your good habits don't usually fail because you don't care. They fall apart because the end of the day doesn't set the stage for them.
Right, and when there's no clean finish, everything starts to carry over. The mess, the stress, the half-finished thoughts, all of it.
So instead of waking up tomorrow and feeling like you're starting from zero again, we're going to talk about a tiny reset that makes the next morning feel lighter.
And there's one small idea that changes the whole sequence. Not more discipline, just a smarter ending.
Quick choice. When your day gets messy, do you usually do A, keep pushing, or B, shut the laptop and disappear?
Be honest. I've done both, and neither one is exactly a productivity masterpiece.
Stay until the end for our word tour 5 expressions you'll hear in the story, and they'll sound very natural in real life.
We're also going to show why a tiny end-of-day reset can take the edge off that morning dread.
And later, we'll give you one tiny trick that's easy enough to keep doing even when you're tired.
So let's get into the part of the day that quietly breaks the habit chain, and how to fix it before it sneaks away again.
So picture this. It's 4:07 p.m., your desk looks like a paper storm, and your brain is already planning dinner while 10 messages still blink at you.
And that's when people think, I'll just finish this one thing. But the day starts leaking, task into task, thought into thought, until nothing feels complete.
Right, and then your good habits lose the fight before they even start, because your attention is carrying over all the unfinished noise.
Exactly. The habit isn't broken by the workout itself. It's broken by the messy transition before the workout ever gets a chance.
This is where habit science gets really useful. There's a simple loop, cue, routine, reward, and at the end of the day, most people forget to protect the cue.
So the cue is the trigger, the routine is the action, and the reward is the payoff. But if the cue is random, the whole thing gets wobbly.
Yes, and your environment is doing half the work. If your laptop stays open, your desk stays cluttered, and your notifications keep popping, your brain keeps saying, the day isn't done yet.
Which is rude, honestly. Your brain is like that one friend who won't leave the party even when the music stopped.
And that's why a fixed end-of-day reset matters. It gives your brain a cue that says, we're wrapping up now.
The beautiful part is that it doesn't need to be fancy, just repeatable.
For example, one person I coached kept missing her evening reading habit, not because she hated reading, but because her workday ended in chaos emails, sticky notes, and a half-finished report all over the place.
So her brain was still in work mode. She sat down with the book, but mentally she was still carrying that open loop from the office.
She didn't need a bigger planner. She needed a cleaner ending. A tiny ritual that made work is done feel real.
That's the key. If the day ends messily, tomorrow starts heavy. If the day ends cleanly, tomorrow has room to breathe.
And yes, I've done the ridiculous version too. Telling myself I'll journal after one more email, then suddenly it's 5:11, my tea's cold, and I'm negotiating with my own sofa.
That is painfully specific. And, honestly, that's why so many good habits never become stable. They're always competing with a day that never gets a proper finish.
The fix starts with a cue that's hard to ignore. Put a reminder on your phone or leave a small paper checklist on your desk. When it goes off, you don't ask, "What should I do next?" You just follow the reset.
That reset can be simple, clear the surface, write tomorrow's first step, and prepare the smallest possible starting action.
And the reward matters too. Close the laptop, turn off the lamp, wash the mug, take a breath. Those tiny signals tell your nervous system, "We're safe. We're finished."
That feeling takes the edge off the next morning because your brain remembers the ending as relief instead of unfinished pressure.
Let's make it real. Imagine your day ends with 3 open tabs, 2 unanswered messages, and 1 half-done plan. What's the first thing you reset?
I clear the desk first. If the space looks calmer, my head follows. Not perfectly, but enough to stop the spiral.
That's the point. You're not trying to become a robot. You're trying to make the transition easier so your habits don't collapse at the exact moment your energy drops.
And by the way, there's a phrase for this in English that we use all the time. It's a very natural one, and we'll break it down later.
So, Alex, I truly believe that setting a clear end-of-day reset routine is the key to unlocking habits that usually die at 4 p.m. It's about creating a reliable cue, and that takes the guesswork and the overwhelm away.
I get that, Emma. But hold on. What if people just don't have the time? When the workload piles up, adding more rituals feels like extra pressure. I'm not convinced a tiny reset can really make a difference if the day's chaos is massive.
That's a fair point. But the beauty is that the reset isn't about adding more work. It's actually about shortening the mental load. Doing just a few simple actions before you leave can prevent that stress from spilling over into tomorrow.
But what if someone's job is unpredictable? Like if your day ends in a crisis or emergency, can you really force a wrap-up ritual? Isn't it just wishful thinking?
I won't pretend that emergencies don't happen, but most days aren't a crisis, right? And if you get on autopilot with your reset, it becomes a small anchor, something you can rely on even when tired. Plus, on autopilot means less energy spent deciding what to do next.
I agree on autopilot sounds great, but I worry it might lead to autopilot that's too rigid. People might just go through the motions without actually addressing what's left undone, like sweeping dirt under the rug instead of cleaning. How does that help long term?
Good question. But that's where set the stage comes in. The reset isn't just a checklist. It's about prepping your environment and your mind for the next day. You're not hiding mess. You're creating a manageable space.
Still, I see a risk that some people miss. Habits rely on motivation too. If someone is drained at 4 p.m., can a little end-of-day routine really carry over enough energy and focus for tomorrow? Isn't motivation the bigger issue?
Motivation fades fast, yes, but research on implementation intentions proves that having clear if-then plans beats pure willpower. You don't rely on motivation. You rely on triggers that prompt the action automatically.
Okay, but implementation intention sounds like another piece of jargon that sounds easy but is hard to apply. How can you make sure people don't just say, "I'll reset," but never do it when the day gets hectic?
Habit stacking is part of it, tying the reset to an existing cue you can't miss, like shutting down your computer or turning off your desk light. These environmental triggers help habits become second nature.
That might work for office workers, but what about freelancers or people working from home who don't have clear boundaries? Their environment is a mess all day. How do they set the stage properly?
It's trickier, but even small changes create effects. For example, putting phone notifications on Do Not Disturb during your reset, or physically moving into another room to signal day's end. The cue has to disrupt the chaos.
I see how that might help. But sometimes I think people expect habits to fix everything too fast. What about when habits plateau or people slip up? Does this reset handle setbacks well?
The reset actually helps with setbacks. It creates a clean slate by closing today's loop so you don't bring frustrations forward mentally. Carry over stress makes it harder to bounce back, so wrapping up tidily improves resilience.
But is there data to back this up? I mean, a lot of people try habits and fall off the wagon. What makes this reset different from saying, just be more disciplined?
Actually, studies suggest that habits that depend on environmental cues and consistent routines automate better and need less willpower. The reset is designed to build on those cues. It's about working smarter, not harder.
That tracks. But what about people who work unpredictable hours? If your schedule changes day to day, how can you lock down a fixed reset time?
Then the emphasis shifts to flexible cues like a personal end of work signal rather than a clock time. It could be shutting down your main task or closing your laptop, something consistent enough to trigger the reset.
That helps. Though I worry about the emotional side, sometimes people associate end of day with disappointment about what they didn't finish. How does the reset handle negative feelings?
Great point. That's where the reward part of the loop is critical. Design the habit's reward to be immediate and pleasant, like turning off lights, brewing a cup of tea, or taking a deep breath. Those comfort cues take the edge off negative feelings.
So it's not just about chores. It's about rewiring our brain to feel peace at the finish line rather than stress.
Exactly. When your brain links end of day to calm and accomplishment, habits get easier. You're training your nervous system to relax instead of revving up at quitting time.
All right, Emma, I admit I'm warming up to this. But for someone who constantly forgets or feels too tired, how do we ensure they don't just skip the reset?
That's why the simplest routines matter. Start with just 3 steps. Clear your desk, write tomorrow's first task, make one tiny starting move. Just those can break the cycle without overwhelming you.
Okay, I'll give that a try. But only if you remind me to brew that tea as a reward. Deal?
Deal. Because if you don't take the edge off, you're just setting yourself up for a repeated cycle of struggle.
I guess the last piece is patience. Habits don't form overnight, and these resets will probably need practice to feel natural.
Absolutely. The consistency over days is what flips the switch. After 5 days of doing this reset, most people notice mornings feel smoother. It's subtle but powerful.
So it's less about forcing change in one big leap and more about gently rearranging habits until they build on each other.
Exactly. Habit formation is a marathon, not a sprint. And this reset is your gentle finish line stretch to keep you going strong. So, after hearing how crucial it is to wrap up your day properly, it's clear that small actions really do make a big difference.
Right. Setting the stage for tomorrow isn't just about what you do in the morning. It starts with how you finish today.
We're about to explore 5 key expressions that capture these habits perfectly. The kind of phrases you can use right away. Let's start with one phrase we heard a lot today: wrap up. It's what you do when you finish something completely. Like when you pack up your desk at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's not just stopping a task. You're making sure everything is ready to pause. If you don't wrap up properly, the stress can carry over, and that makes the next day harder.
That's such a good point about carrying things over. Carryover means when something from earlier keeps affecting what you're doing now, like unfinished emails or to-dos that stay in your head.
I've definitely had days when my stress carried over into my morning workout. It's like my brain didn't know I'd finished working the day before. That's why a clear end-of-day wrap-up helps prevent that.
And set the stage is another great one. Imagine you're setting up a play, right? You arrange everything so the actors can perform well. In life, setting the stage means you prepare things in advance to make a habit easier to start.
So if I get my running shoes ready before bed, I'm setting the stage for a morning jog. Everything's waiting for me. That little tip saves a ton of morning excuses.
Exactly. And when you do these routines enough times, your brain starts to run on autopilot. That's when you don't have to think hard about your habit anymore. It just happens naturally.
Like brushing your teeth. You don't debate it, you just do it, right? When habits are on autopilot, you use less willpower and they become easier to keep.
The final phrase is take the edge off. This is what happens when you reduce stress or difficulty. Like when you close your laptop or make a cup of tea after work, it takes the edge off the day's pressure.
It's a small thing, but it signals to your brain, okay, the hard part's done. This little reward helps your habit feel more satisfying and keeps you coming back for more.
So all these phrases work together in the habit loop. You wrap up your work, set the stage for tomorrow, stop things from carrying over, take the edge off the stress, and soon your routine is on autopilot.
It's like building a well-oiled machine of your day. Each phrase describes a key step to make habits stick without draining your willpower.
Let's try using them together in a quick scenario. Imagine it's 4 p.m. You're about to finish your workday. What do you do?
First, I'd wrap up what I'm doing, close files, and clear my desk. Then, I'd set the stage by writing tomorrow's first step.
Perfect. And by cleaning up, you stop stress from carrying over, so your brain feels ready to relax.
Then I'd take the edge off by shutting the computer and grabbing a relaxing drink. This little ritual helps my brain shift gears.
And because you do this daily, your brain goes on autopilot, making it easier to start fresh the next day.
These expressions aren't just fancy words, they're practical tools for real life. And when you use them together, they build momentum for better habits.
Absolutely. They remind us that habits aren't about giant leaps, they're about small resets that feel doable every day.
I'm thinking of setting a phone reminder to wrap up my day. Any excuse to avoid email chains, I'm in.
That's the spirit. And maybe add set the stage by prepping tomorrow's plan. It's a game changer for mornings. So remember, wrapping up doesn't mean just stopping work. It means organizing, preparing, and taking simple steps that keep habits flowing smoothly.
When stress doesn't carry over and you take the edge off with small rewards, habits stay strong and feel more natural.
It might sound small, but these phrases represent real shifts that can make your day end and start much better.
And over time, those tiny steps become habits on autopilot, freeing your brain for bigger things.
So as you finish today, think about how you can wrap up your tasks, set the stage for tomorrow, and take the edge off the day.
Your habits and your mornings will thank you for it.
So, to wrap up, we've talked about why your good habits often fall apart around 4 p.m. It's not because you're lazy or unmotivated. It's because the day ends with chaos instead of a calm reset.
Exactly. We explored how setting a solid end-of-day routine creates a clear cue that helps your brain switch off work mode and get ready for the next day, making mornings much less stressful.
If you want to give this a try, start small. First, pick a time, maybe the last 7 minutes of your workday, and use it to tidy your space and write down your first step for tomorrow. That sets the stage for a smoother start.
Then, add a simple reward. Close your laptop, turn off your desk lamp, or make a cup of tea. Anything that signals to your brain that you've finished. This helps take the edge off and makes the habit feel satisfying.
I personally started doing this a few weeks ago. Some days were tougher than others, but sticking to that little reset made mornings easier. I didn't have to scramble to remember what to do next. It was right there on my list.
That feeling of control really adds up. It's not about being perfect. It's about building momentum. When your habits get on autopilot, you save so much energy.
So next time your afternoon starts to slip, try this tiny end-of-day reset and see how it changes your routine. Habits don't have to be hard if the finish line is clear.
And if you find a different trick that works for you, great. The important thing is to make your life easier, not more stressful.
Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what's one small habit you want to reset or improve in your day?
We read every single comment. Thanks so much for listening, and see you in the next episode.